Hi, I'm Prema, and I'm so glad that you're here for my premiere show of Your Best Kept Secret to Success. If you don't know me already, I'm a leading Vedic astrologer and the award winning author of Your Sacred Wealth Code, and also known as the secret power behind successful women. And I want to add a few extraordinary men as well. So, my gift and my intention and what I want to bring to you is really unlocking your soul blueprint for purpose and prosperity and guiding you towards your full potential. And I will be breaking that all down for you and what that all actually means. So, it's not just about success on the worldly terms, but really helping you to redefine what success is for you because you are very uniquely encoded for success. And don't worry about if you don't know anything about what Vedic astrology is. I'll also enlighten you about that and why I'm using that, how that can help you. This is not meant to be like an astrology forecast. I have a YouTube channel for that, and you can check the links in the show notes and on my website if you want to watch that. I will be sprinkling in some of the astrology so that you can understand the energy that you're already feeling on some level. And my intention here is to really help you to navigate that energy, make sense of things, and to be able to understand maybe why you're going through a particular challenge and how we can actually navigate that. Because my intention is not just to give you more information. We already have a lot of information. It's really, what can you do with the information? How can you make it useful for you personally? So, I am the creator of Your Sacred Wealth Code, which is all about unlocking your soul blueprint for purpose and prosperity. Yes, I wrote a book. I have a journal that goes along with that book, an oracle deck, and I will be doing some oracle card readings as well on this show. This first episode is really about getting to know each other. It is also to give you an idea of what it is that you can expect in our time together. And today I do want to give you some of my background, like, where I come from, why do I know the things that I do, and to build some trust with you and to, allow you to in on my personal journey, but also to give you some practical tools today and something you can actually walk away with as far as understanding your own success journey, no matter where you are on that path, whether you're consider yourself to have had a lot of success and now you're looking at what's next, because the truth is we do live in an expanding universe, and it's fine that we have desires, and our desires expand our world and they expand the greater world. So in that, even though if we've reached a certain level of success, then there's usually something else. Or what I notice also is sometimes when we get a certain part of our life, whether it's our relationships, whether it's the work we're doing in the world, our financials, our health, our well-being, or even our spiritual life, when we feel like we're really successful in maybe one area, maybe two areas, sometimes then we notice, wow, it's time for me to up level another area of my life. So we'll be talking about all the areas of life because they all matter, and everything, one part of us affects another part of us. So, just a little bit more about me, as well as being an astrologer. I'm also very much of an intuitive, a healer. I hold full moon healing circles, and I do a lot of belief clearing work, healing energetics, healing some of those mystery blocks within ourselves, because it's part of my gifts. And we'll be talking a lot about when we all lean into our own gifts, our own, what I like to call our high value gifts. And that's what the Sacred Wealth Code is built off of. Then this is all like our natural zone of genius, but it's actually encoded in your soul blueprint. When we lean into our own gifts, then we really tend to be on purpose, happy, passionate. Uh, and for some of us, our gifts are very specific, and we might feel like we've got, a couple of lanes that we walk really well in. And for some of us, we're really multidimensional. And for me, I just happen to be pretty multidimensional. So I like to weave all of that in to what I bring to you. So I am a healer in my own right as well. I'm very much here to help you with some of the things that I've walked through and helped many people walk through as far as up leveling into our highest potential. But I'm also a mom. I've got 4 kids. We have a blended family. They're all in their 30s. I'm just about to be a grandmother the second time. I'm an avid gardener, meaning that I would prefer to live outdoors. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so that's not possible year round. But I grow a lot of my own food. I have a greenhouse. I have a big garden. I live to be outside on so many levels because I feel very aligned and just my core essence is happy, and I feel just so alive being outside. So I spend a lot of time outside. I hike pretty much every day, down through the forest to the beach, and hike in the mountains every time I can get a chance. I love music. I love traveling. I just got back from Hawaii because I find I need to be in the sun in the wintertime. And I love people and I love deep connection with people. And that's why I'm very much in a people oriented business. I'm also a dog lover. Let's see, I've got a standard poodle and I have 4 grand dogs. So that's just a little bit more about me. So I also want you to know that this just isn't another like success podcast, okay? It's really an invitation to join me on a sacred journey of discovery, self-discovery, of transformation. And in that, I'm going to help you to understand how Vedic astrology, how, wisdom mixed with sort of current modern success principles can really unlock your own extraordinary potential. It's easy to get comfortable when we reach a certain level, and and then it's really easy to get dissatisfied when things become status quo. So again, like I said, there's this part of us that always wants to expand. So one of the unique things about this show is that it is recorded live, and we take callers on the show. So you're either listening to this afterwards or you're tuning in live. And if you are tuning in live and you want to ask me a question, you want to have me bring up a topic, I am happy to do that. And the number is likely on your screen, but it is 1-866-451-1451. And if you want to ask me a question via email with wherever you're tuning into this show, you're going to see that you can email me at askprema at solutionary, SOULUTIONARY.com, but I'm sure there's a link. It's also on my website. So in between shows, you can send me an email. You can let me know what's going on for you. And also feel free to ask me a question and I will bring that up for you on a future show. So in this episode, I want to start with my journey, my transformational journey. And when I think back, it's like I feel like I've lived, 25 lives in this life, and those will come out over time within our time together. But the story that really is pertinent to our topics here to begin with is really this path that I was on, and finding myself in a very challenging position where I was very much struggling because I felt like I was truly on purpose. And what I was confused about in this journey, when I had a yoga center, a yoga and healing arts center, and I was a yoga teacher for many years. And within that work, I had a couple different studios, and then I was called to open this big, beautiful yoga center. And this was just we built it out. We had 2 studios. Had a place for community. My kids would come after school, so I had an office and a place for them to hang out and do their homework. It was really a dream come true. There was healing practitioners, and it was pretty high end. And unbeknownst to me, did I know that there was a war that was going to happen, and that there was the whole road in front of the center would be ripped up for a whole year, and just you know, challenges, initiations. When we go bigger, when we expand into the next level, a lot of times we are then tested with different initiations that come along our way. And so, in that yoga center, which I opened in 2002, and had that center open for 5 years, it was a six-figure business, and it was beautiful, and I really felt like I was on purpose. It had an incredible community and staff. But during that time, where it evolved to is I was really hanging on by a thread. I had my own real personal awakening during that time. I felt I was on purpose, but the numbers weren't working. Yes, I did have a very high overhead, and but the numbers weren't working. And I was doing everything I could to put it together, both with, business strategy and doing all the internal work to clear whatever beliefs I had. I, at one point, even got to the place of, potentially selling the center, bringing in a partner, even turning it into a nonprofit. And all of those options, went pretty far down the line, but then they stopped. And I was again left with, okay, what do I do next? This really brought me to my knees. It was really a dark night of the soul on many levels. And if you've ever been through a dark night of the soul, this is a place where you've really looked on the outer world for many different solutions. You've probably prayed for a lot of different solutions. And there feels like there's nowhere else to turn. So in this dark night of the soul, I kept hearing, okay, you just need to let go, let go. So like I said, I was clearing beliefs, I was doing all the things. But then as I was opening the center door at 6:30 a.m. to teach a class, I just got that it was like a 2x4 over my head finally. That really took me to my knees. No, I need to let it all go. I needed to let the center go. And that was a lot. That was a lot for my ego. That was a lot for me, really feeling like, here, I'm on purpose, and why is this working? I believed if we really poured our heart and soul into anything, we could make it work. But I was called to let it all go, and I did. During that time, during that whole time of the dissolution of the yoga center, I also lost my marriage at that time. And things turned around rather quickly for me when I finally surrendered. I was on my knees. I vowed that I would stay there in that point of surrender and really looking inward until I found the solution, until I found where I was off. Because I felt at some level I was really, really on purpose. So I really dove into my work, into the Vedic astrology, and during that time, I started to discover some things. Now, I was really looking at this place of like, I'm on purpose, and prosperity. Where is it? So, as I was really digging into my Vedic astrology, I at that point discovered the sacred wealth code. And the sacred wealth code is where our purpose and our prosperity meet. And in this place of purpose and prosperity, there are our gifts. And our gifts are something that only we can use in the way we can use them to unlock something in the world that no one else can unlock. So, this is an incredibly potent place. This is something that we unlock in our soul blueprint. And when we come back from our sponsor break here, then I will tell you all about the sacred wealth code, because you have one too. So you're watching my show, Your Best Kept Secret to Success. And we're going to have a short break, and I'll be back, and I want to talk to you about what your sacred wealth code is and how you can best use it. So before long, I was living in a beautiful home, working with groups, mentoring women online, serving an incredible community in a whole new way because I had stepped into my sacred wealth code. A way that wasn't depleting me or my bank accounts like before when I had the yoga center, and in a way that has really built wealth. But I needed to surrender to my soul's path and really, like I said, really embody my sacred wealth code and the true depth of my gifts. And this is where real alignment happens. And so I want to break down what the heck is your sacred wealth code? So in our soul blueprint, in our Vedic astrology chart, which I like to refer to as your soul blueprint, and yes, I'm going to explain a little bit more about Vedic astrology in just a moment. We'll cover it all, okay? So in your Vedic astrology chart, there is a place where purpose and prosperity planets, they either are intersecting, they're placed, but there is a scientific principle because Vedic astrology is a science. It takes an intuitive and an art to read it, but it is a science. So there is this sort of prescription that we're all given for where purpose and prosperity meet. And what I noticed over time, and when I really dug into it, this is where our highest value gifts live. And what I mean by that, your highest value gifts, we all have a lot of gifts. But again, what are the ones that you have that nobody else has? And even those, okay, so there's other astrologers, for instance, there's other healers, there's other teachers, but nobody does it in the exact way that I do it. And in the way that I give my gifts, the way that you give your gifts, it's very unique. That's why, there's so many different books, maybe all on the same subject, but they don't resonate for everyone, and some resonate for certain people. Okay. When we know what those gifts are, and it's like those gifts, they live on sort of if your purpose and prosperity is an intersection in your soul blueprint, then your gifts are like the houses on the corners of that intersection. And again, when you know what those gifts are and you start to really use and embody those gifts, then you start to unlock this feeling of meaningfulness, a sense of purpose, because if you are using your highest value gifts, I guarantee you, you are on purpose. And you may know what your purpose is. And we have sort of a core purpose, and then we have a purpose for the work we do in the world, the purpose for relationships. We have different purpose can play out in different ways. When you are using your gifts, you have a sense of meaning. So you are on your purposeful path. Now, if you've defined your purpose, then you can really bring your gifts and your purpose together in a very unique way. Like, this is the way I've created my work in the world, and it evolves and shifts as I continue to grow. And this is what I help many people do in the work that I do. And if you're not sure what your purpose is, by you using your gifts, by you embodying your gifts, you will be on your purposeful path, and your purpose will start to it'll start to reveal itself to you. So it's just this beautiful magical combination of using our gifts, and which allows us to be on purpose, or I know what my purpose is, and okay, now how can I supercharge that by infusing it with leaning into my gifts? Now here's the thing about your highest value gifts is your divine gifts, but I like to call them your highest value gifts because we have a lot of gifts. We have a lot of skills as well. But your gifts are the things that you were like born with a PhD in. And in that, they are something that I like, again, that only you can do and only you know in the way that you do. But the thing is, a lot of people tend to do what they're good at. And that's by well-meaning parents, that's by programming, that's by society. And you can tell if you're doing something you're good at compared to doing something that's really a gift for you. If you are not feeling that sense of fulfillment, if you're questioning, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? If other people seem to like what you're doing, but you're not quite sure about that, or you're bored with it. We are so programmed to do what we're good at. but our gifts are also something that may have not been nurtured. And if they aren't nurtured, what tends to happen is we end up being more in the shadow side of our gifts. When we're in the shadow side of our gifts, we are it's like the gift is sort of locked up. So let me relate this to my story. When I was had the yoga center, and one of the things that I realized when I was in that dark night of the soul and really dove into the energy and what's really going on in my soul blueprint, what was revealed to me is that I was really leaning into a part of my shadow. I have a very strong Saturn in my chart, and that makes me very dependable and reliable and a really good workhorse, and I can hold a lot for a lot of people. And I was using that in a way that wasn't supporting me. I was taking on a lot of responsibilities that really weren't mine to take on. And in that, I didn't have enough bandwidth for fully stepping into my gifts, even though I was teaching yoga, teaching teachers. I was doing private sessions and astrology on the side. I was running a business. I was wearing a lot of different hats, and I can wear a lot of different hats. But what are the ones that I can wear that are really mine to wear and keep me enlivened and keep me on purpose? Well, leaning into that shadow side of my Saturn wasn't the best place for me. And so that took up a lot of energy, and it really took me down in a lot of ways. Now, I believe whatever's happening to us is really happening for us. And there's always a blessing in the challenge. And actually, the gift and the challenge is one of the pillars in the sacred wealth code, which we will get to. Not necessarily today. I won't fully decode that, but we'll get to that in a future episode. So, for instance, if you think about a challenge that you've had and you were to look back at that challenge, but you know that you now know the blessing that was in that challenge. So everybody think about something like that. Okay. So, I'm using this example of my yoga center. Something you knew that was the blessing for me, the sacred wealth code work came out of that, a whole new evolution of myself, my work in the world, my business, a level of success and finances, all came out of that. And, and so with that, for you, if you're looking back over your past and something you knew was a challenge and now is a blessing, well, what if the challenges that you're facing now, or you can use this for a future challenge because I guarantee you're going to have one, that you could lean into that and know there's a gift in that challenge, because there is. Because any challenge we're going through is an initiation. It may be a soul challenge, meaning it's something at some level we decided that we need to wrestle with a bit so that we can open up to, we can learn more about ourselves. So unlocking those gifts in those challenges really helps us to be able to step again more into our gifts. Again, there is a shadow side of your wealth code, and a lot of times we're noticing what's going wrong more than we're noticing what's going right. And that's okay when you know that, oh, if I'm just noticing what's going wrong, if I'm noticing that shadow side, then I let me look to the other side of that and what is the gift in that challenge. So just curious for all of you, like, are you going through something right now? What is the challenge you're going through? And are you aware of what the gift is for that? And if not, that's okay. Hopefully you can take a nugget from this. And in order to lean into that, if you really asked yourself, hey, if I did know, like, what's the gift in this? Or if I go 10 years down the road and I look back at this, what am I going to see as the gift in this? So we have another great aspect of this show, as I talked about, which is where we have the opportunity to talk with one another. This is a journey and a conversation between us, and we take live callers, and we do have a live caller calling it. So I want to go ahead and take that caller now. All right. So welcome. Can you hear me? Let's see. I'm not quite. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I'm not quite hearing Okay, we'll check one more time. The caller who's calling in from Baton Rouge, can you go ahead and talk?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. That's great. Hi.
Um, I'm enjoying the show so much. Now,
That's
I
awesome.
want to ask you a question. How do you how do you find your purpose?
Okay, wonderful. So, and who am I talking to?
This is Margaret Saison in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we're in a snowstorm today.
Okay, welcome. We're having freezing weather as well, but not a snowstorm. Okay, so welcome, Margaret. And tell me your question one more time.
I would like to know, how do you find your purpose in life? How do you know what your purpose is?
Okay, that's a great question, Margaret, and it's a big question, and it's one we'll unravel over time. But let me give you the short answer here. And as far as finding your purpose, again, your sacred wealth code is a place to find your purpose, and purpose gives us meaning. And when we really understand, what is it that gives me the like makes me feel the most alive and the most meaning? And I think this is why a lot of people will say, find your passion, and that'll lead you to your purpose. And I believe that that is absolutely useful information. I like to go right to the source. I like to look at your chart. I like to give you your sacred wealth code. And in that, it reveals your purpose. But when someone's looking on their own, and of course, I'm going to go ahead and do a plug for the book here, because the Sacred Wealth Code book, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity, actually leads you through a whole process. It's very much of a workbook to discover your own sacred wealth code, and the purpose will be there. Again, your purpose gives you meaning. So if you think of and want to make a list of the things that, what is it that you're just so, we could use the word passionate about, you feel so strongly about, that we could think of it as the difference that you want to make in the world. But we want to reel it back farther than that, because actually purpose equals why. So when you look at why it is that you're doing what you're doing, or you want to do what you want to do, then we get down to the purpose. So, for instance, uh, so Margaret, what's something that you just love to do?
I love to do digital art.
Okay, beautiful. And are you currently making money from digital art?
No, not currently, but I
Okay.
cannot not do it. I do it all the time.
Okay, great. So in your and the reason I ask that, because a lot of times people will equate their purpose with making money, and that may or may not be true. Sometimes we're making a living doing something, and we're on purpose in our what really enlivens us, whether that's having a dog rescue center, or whether that's working for a certain organization, volunteering, that brings a lot of purpose to our lives. But what I'm hearing from you, and just what I'm sensing from you, Margaret, is that the digital art is something that really does light you on fire. And is it something that you have been doing for a long time, or is this something new?
Well, before the internet, I'm telling how old I am. When I was a little girl, I used to cut pictures out of magazines. And so then when technology came, it shifted to, I do compositing, which is in a way like cutting out pictures and putting them, I'd make these collages. And so as long as I could remember, in some format, I just did this. I've done this all my
Okay.
life. Just
What I love about that example um, is that this is exactly how our gifts tend to show up, like early in life, that there's just something you naturally do. And having raised four kids, like, I did my best to create environments and let them just follow their lead on those things. So it's great that you can link that back to that. So now it's evolved into, okay, this digital imagery and digital artwork. And so then if you wanted to use that as a vehicle for your purpose, then you would want to dig into, like, why is this so important to me? Like, what is the big why behind this? And what you're going to notice in that why is you want to get down to actually how it makes you feel at a certain level, because that feeling is that energetic currency. And that's why I think people tend to point people to their passion when they're talking about purpose. And, why is that so important to you? And then that why it's so important to you is the actual purpose of doing that work. And then you can hook that purpose into, how can then, if you want to take it to the next level, then you can start to ask some of those questions on how can I serve at a greater level with this. So is this making sense to you, Margaret?
Yes, it really, really is. And if I had to say, um, when you're talking about essence, when I was young, of course, the essence was a little bit different. But now the imagery I work with is transcendent. So as you're saying that, I'm thinking, to me, if I had to say, what is it? It's bringing the transcendent into the world in a way that people can see it and it becomes tangible.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. And then how does that make you feel?
Transcendent. It makes me feel really
Okay, great.
connected up.
Great. So that's one of the keys that you'll notice is that if you're on purpose, you're going to feel really connected, and we need to know what that feels like. Okay. So again, for everyone, and thank you, Margaret, for calling in and bringing in this great question, is that your big why, like why you're doing something or being something, because it's not always a level of doing that why is really, that's the purpose. That's the purpose. And then that can be expressed in a lot of different ways. So again, thanks, Margaret, for calling in and bringing that question. And the purpose is one of the pillars of the Sacred Wealth Code, and we will really dig into all the nitty gritty on that in a future episode in the very near future. So thanks again for calling in, Margaret. All right, welcome back. And again, thanks, Margaret, for calling in. Always love to talk with you. And you're always welcome to also email me any questions at askprema@solutionary, SOULUTIONARY.com. And also feel free to call in. And again, the number is 1-866-451-1451. So again, like I said, we'll dive deeper into purpose because it's a big subject, but I really love that Margaret brought that up. I want to take a moment now to talk about the energy that's going on. And there's a lot that I could talk about as far as the celestial energy. And this is a really pivotal time. We're on January 21st of 2025. I actually do a whole class on the year ahead, which is available on my website, Divinely Aligned 2025. And actually, I'm doing some personal 2025 readings, and those are also available on my website, solutionary.com. The transit that I want to talk about today that's really important to the energy that we're all feeling is we've got Mars in retrograde. And just don't worry about it if you know anything about the planets or don't. And actually, as I'm saying this, I'm going to back up for a minute. So just going to back up for a minute. And I want to talk about what the heck is Vedic astrology. Okay. Most people are familiar with what we call Western astrology. And you might think of that as the regular astrology. It's based off the tropical zodiac. Vedic astrology is based off the sidereal zodiac. They are the same sky. They are the same houses, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, all the way through Pisces. It's just that the two systems look at where those divisions in the sky, because there's not really lines in the sky where the different houses are, as a little bit different. Where Vedic astrology and Western astrology start, the first constellation of Aries is about 23 degrees difference. And where tropical astrology bases it off it is the spring equinox, and where Vedic astrology, the sidereal zodiac, bases it off is the fixed stars. The fixed stars don't change. Those are fixed stars in the sky, constellations that are sort of behind the houses, so to speak. And we also call those the nakshatras. Now, I am not going to totally geek out on you right now about what Vedic astrology is. I'll drip that out here. And if you want to know more about that, I talk about that a lot more on my YouTube channel. But the main difference is that we are very much paying attention to uh, the ascendant sign in the Vedic astrology chart, the rising sign, is really what the first thing that defines you and the planet that rules that. Another thing about Vedic astrology is we pay a lot of attention to the moon. We have a lot of layers to look at things through. So we might think something is looking like one thing, and then we go over to another way we can look at that planet, that aspect, that transit, and we want to confirm it there. And we've got several layers of doing that. Also, even several layers of looking at purpose and wealth, etc., in your soul blueprint. In the sidereal zodiac, in Vedic astrology, we call it the true placement of the planets because, on an astronomy level, if you look up in the heavens right now, we're going to see Jupiter is in Taurus. Tropical is going to say it's in Gemini. I'm not saying one system is better than the other. This is the best system for me. All systems have their value, but there's just a truth to the system. It came from the Vedas, that are thousands of years old spiritual texts from India, and I find it to be very accurate. Now, I don't use Vedic astrology for prediction. I use it to help you to understand what the cosmic weather is, help you to understand yourself so that you can make better choices. So, if it is a rainy, cold day and I want to go to the beach, I'm probably not going to wear my bikini unless I'm going to wear it under my wool leggings and my rain slicker. In the summertime, I'm happy to run down there in my cutoffs and in my bathing suit. So, depending on the weather, helps us to prepare for the elements, helps us to prepare for what we're going to face in a day. And it also helps us to make better choices. So, I think prediction robs people of choice because there's many different timelines and there's many different choices we could make in any given moment. But we also in Vedic astrology, and me as when I'm putting on my Vedic astrologer hat, I do look at timelines because there are things that help us to understand the timing of things. Your dasha cycle, like I like to call your soul cycle. So the way I like to describe that is someone might say, hey, is this a good time for me to launch this or start my business or, to go for that promotion or to sell that house? And this might be a good time or there may be a better time. And if you've got the flexibility to work with time, let's pick the weather so that it's really, a good time for you. If you don't have that flexibility, then let's understand how you're going to have to suit up for it so that you're successful in walking through whatever's being presented to you. So I love the tool of Vedic astrology. I've been a Vedic astrologer for over 20 years. It is not the only thing I do, but it is a huge part. I infuse it into all my work with my private clients, in my Sacred Wealth Collective, my membership. I infuse it's infused in the Sacred Wealth Code work. I do readings and read people's charts. Um, I help people with their businesses, with their life, with their relationships, with their health, with all the things so that we can live into our highest potential. So currently in Vedic astrology, Mars is retrograde in the heavens, for everybody, but it is retrograding currently on the 21st, moving from Cancer into Gemini. And it's been in Cancer, debilitated. That means it's just not strong. Mars is not strong for what it's typically strong for. So Mars is a planet of productivity, of action. It's also a warrior planet, and it likes to get stuff done, preferably yesterday. Okay. And in Cancer, a very feeling, emotional, sign of home and family, it's not comfortable there. And so it's been sort of emotionally frustrating for people. So if you've been feeling emotionally frustrated, or you've seen that in the collective, that's very much been going on, for the last 2, almost 3 months, where Mars has been there. Now it's moving into Gemini. It'll still be retrograde until February 23rd. And in its retrograde motion, it's not super clear. Now, Gemini is a place of ideas and communication. It's the natural third house of the zodiac. It's a place where we want to connect over ideas. It's an air sign. And Mars is very much a place here where you can get into arguments if you forget to lean into your curiosity. You really want to stay in that energy of curiosity. And that's even if someone's coming at you. Like, this is the energy of like debates and could be arguments, because Mars is still a little bit frustrated on being able to be clear enough to take practical action. And after February 23rd, that is going to be a time to very much move forward on those ideas. Now, I'm not saying you can't move forward before then, but if you are feeling frustrated, let's not argue it out with somebody. Let's take a deep breath. How do you manage this energy? First of all, Mars needs to sweat. Mars needs to uh, burn that extra physical energy off. Look, we all need to exercise, but with Mars, and when Mars is strong or challenged, we want to make sure that we are sweating. So do some exercise, get grounded, get your feet on the ground, get into your body, yoga, martial arts, run, lift weights, whatever it is that you need to do. And the other key here is to slow down. Be a better listener, and don't try to be filling in everybody else's words or getting your words in. And listen, we've got to be really good listeners. This will help you to ground this energy. And it may not be as easy to put together a practical plan for something. So just capture the ideas, capture those inspired ideas, write them down, and know that the pieces are going to start to come together. It's a little bit harder to analyze that information in the retrograde, but after this goes direct on February 23rd, we're going to start to be able to get productive, move forward. The frustration you can feel here shows up a lot of times as impatience. And just watch that. We can tell when we're being impatient with people. Now, in the Sacred Wealth Code system, all of the gifts that we have been boiled down to being held by 23 archetypes. And the 23 archetypes, each planet has 3 archetypes, and this north and south node of the moon each have an archetype. And the archetypes for Mars are, and if you're watching me live, I'm holding up some cards, are the strategist, are the engineer, and the honorable warrior. And the archetypes are a soul language. And the soul language is something that can be understood by everyone. We are going to take a short break for our sponsors. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you all about the Sacred Wealth Code archetypes and how Mars's archetypes, how you can embody those and use those to move through not only this sort of retrograde challenging time, but as it starts to move forward and get really productive. So Mars's archetypes, again, are the honorable warrior, the engineer, and the strategist. Mars in Gemini, where it's retrograding back into, is very much the energy of the strategist, even though it has all the archetypal energies within it. Now, as I said, archetypal language is a soul language. What that means is I'm saying to you, the strategist, and each and every one of you has a story that's opening up for you that you completely understand. It's just a transmission. It's based on your own internal reference system. So it's beautiful when you know what your own Sacred Wealth Code archetypes are, which you get in a Sacred Wealth Code reading, and which hold your gifts, and they also hold your shadow, because it's a very unique way and a very personalized way for you to be able to embody that information. So, with the strategist energy, every archetype also has a mantra. It has an inspired action. It has a purpose. And for the strategist, the mantra is every vision, or I should say, the purpose is every vision has a plan. And how this relates on an archetypal level to what I was talking about with Mars's energy is that, yeah, well, that plan is going to be more clear when we start to have this Mars move forward. And that'll be on February 23rd. So when you can just start to think of, instead of me just saying Mars, and start to think, okay, my strategist, I have an inner strategist, and my inner strategist, let's not get the inner strategist frustrated. Okay, let's capture the ideas, and the plan will start to materialize. It'll start to be more clear after the 23rd. If it starts before then, great. But meanwhile, explore what's, any good plan that we have has taken some exploration. It's taken the tossing around of ideas and sort of playing it out one way, playing it out the other way. And so use that energy for that. There's lots more going on. I just want to say the first half of 2025 is much different than the second half. The first half, there's more shifts and changes. And in fact, this year is unique in that all of the inner planets are going to change signs. Now, there's planets like Venus and the Sun and Mercury that change signs every year. But we have slower moving planets like Jupiter, only changes signs once a year. Saturn, every 2.5 years. Every single planet will change signs this year by the end of May. We'll have the outer planets, including the north and south node of the moon, which only change every year and a half. This brings major changes for each and every one of us, and major shifts. So, look, change is not bad, but we just need to keep our sea legs on, and we need to be open to the shift that is going to happen. And that's going to really primarily happen between January and the end of May. Yes, we'll have little shifts go on, after that. In September, we'll have eclipses again. But these are so the first part of the year, if you're starting to feel uncertain, if you thought something was going one way, it looks like it's going another way. If it's just feeling a little uncomfortable, if you're feeling stretched, this is absolutely normal. I'm going to be continuing to bring you ways to navigate this energy just like we navigate the weather, having a clear vision of what it is you want for the year, which is something is part of the 2025 Divinely Aligned class, which you can get on my website. And I do a whole visioning process, and I do this with my private clients and with my group clients, and in my mastermind as well, so that we really are able to tune into our vision for the year ahead. We know what our purpose is. And then, even though we're going to have a lot of shifts and changes, a lot of weather that comes along the way, we still have our sights set for what it is we're creating, but we're listening internally. The way we might get there may shift and change. And that's the beauty of knowing what the energy is. And that's why I like to bring you that in layman's terms, in ways that you can just, understand, and practical action. So you know what you're going to do with the Mars energy, and that's going to be going on for a while now. So, and even when it goes direct, we're still going to need to watch this energy because it'll come back into Cancer. I'll talk about that at a future date. I want to talk a little bit more about the sacred wealth code and the archetypes. So, as I said, there is 23 archetypes. There is 3 for each planet, 1 for the north, 1 for the south node of the moon. And so, how did these archetypes come to be? So, I had been doing this work of the Sacred Wealth Code once I walked the journey myself. I started doing it right away with other people. So that was back in 2007, 2007, end of 2007. And since then, it's evolved and gone in many directions. I used to sit down with someone and we'd really have to talk about, and I tell them exactly, what their gifts are. And I still do that at a certain level when you come in for a reading. But after a while of doing that, literally the archetypes like channeled in. And when I say channeled, I mean I am an intuitive. My channel is open, and they intuitively dropped in. Now, within Vedic astrology, there are, within Indian mythology, there are lots of different archetypes. I live in the West, I speak English, and I was grateful that the archetypes came in English terms that are universally understood. But they also still, as they dropped in and they decoded and really identified themselves, then they started to drop in at a level of articulating. And then the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle cards came to be, that they wanted to be created, and I collaborated with an artist, and we created this beautiful archetype deck that can just be used on its own as an just pulling a card daily. So we'll be using these. I'll be doing more card readings. We talked about Mars today, but I'll be doing more card readings in the future. And I will open it up time to time, even for callers to call in and ask for a card reading for something in particular. So the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle deck is available on my website. It's also available on Amazon, Your Sacred Wealth Code, as well as my book, which is very much of a playbook, as well as having all the archetypes, but it takes you through a whole journey on unlocking your soul blueprint for purpose and prosperity, including money beliefs, all kinds of stuff. And also my Sacred Wealth Code journal you can also get on my website or on Amazon. I am grateful to have gotten to have this time with you. Next time we're together, next week, I'm here every week, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be talking about decoding your soul blueprint, and we'll dive more into everything about the archetypes and so much more. And I'll be doing a card reading collectively for us during that time. I really appreciate you listening to the show. You can reach out on my website, solutionary.com. And that's where all my programs, my membership, my readings, if you want a reading with me, just message me or go to the website and you can book that. And you can take my free Sacred Wealth Code quiz there. And that's right on the front page of my website, solutionary.com. And you'll get a free archetype and a description for it. So I really appreciate you tuning into the show, and I can't wait to be with you next time. You're listening here on Bold Brave TV Network. And again, your best kept secret to success. And I'll be back next week. Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate you tuning into my show, Your Best Kept Secret to Success. We air live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Bold Brave TV Network, powered by B2 Studios. I can't wait to be with you next week.